Hey, Love Your Life fam. It's Crystal and Andre Holland.
What's up, everybody?
Hey, looking forward to hearing from you. So to find us, you can check us out on
Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Stitcher. We look forward to hearing from you all.
Yeah, we came a long way, and that's what the songs say. And I can do all things. I can do all things. Yeah, I can do all things. Yeah, we came a long way, and that's what the songs say. And I can do all things. And I can do all things. And I can do all things.
Hey, Love Your Life family. Welcome back to another Loving Your Life podcast. It's just this Crystal.
What's going on, fam? It's your boy Andre.
And we are back at you with another discussion about loving your life. How are you doing today, baby?
I'm doing well. You know, we're coming out of the quarantine in Arizona. Obviously, still reeling with all the things that are going on in the nation. But just truly taking some time to reflect, some loving your lifetime as far as taking care of yourself, meaning for me, just taking some time there to reflect, do some quiet, some meditation, some reading, just to make sure that I stay centered. So, I'm doing well, babe. How you doing?
Doing pretty good. Looking at, we're officially probably almost 3 months into, continuing to maintain a lifestyle of being intentional about health and being focused. COVID-19 is definitely still an issue.
Obviously, COVID-19 for sure. And then, a lot of the protests that are going on as a result of some of these murders, again, at the hand of police brutality. So just really sparking, things in our nation. And so for us, for sure, it's been like I would assume all Americans, just a time, I pray, a time of reflecting, a time of looking at how we can truly come together, support one another regardless of race, to truly make this life that we're living and even that life that we lead to others a better place. So, definitely reflecting, babe, and just trying to be intentional, like you said.
Yeah, definitely. Just continuing to prepare for some activities for the summer and using wisdom with that, because at the end of the day, our kids' safety is a priority. So, basketball camp and preparing for band camp and different things. And so just really praying for the leaders that are on these campuses and those that are having roundtable discussions about multiple things, how to keep our children safe, health-wise, and then the uproar, the crying out in the earth, confronting racism. It's a very real issue that a lot of people within the education system have to come to the table and deal with it.
Well, and I think too, even as before we look at people in the educational system and leaders on campuses, just even starting in our own home, and then for our listeners, starting in your home. At the end of the day, just using wisdom on how and what you start getting back to. Whatever that may look like. Joining sports, activities, going out, dining out, spending time with family, friends, and loved ones. At the end of the day, making sure that part of loving your life is making sure that you realize that you're valuable, you're worthy, and you're empowered. And so it really kind of ties into what I really want to talk about today, loving your life enough to confront your fears.
I can't imagine, for those that have never truly been intentional to confront your own prejudices and areas of racism and having to come to the table and confront your fears. And it may not necessarily be around, actually hating a race, but just the discomfort of, like, man, do I have some prejudices or do I have preconceived thoughts that just shaped me?
Right. Well, and even as we talk about confronting your fears, obviously race is one of them, but there are so many. Right. And obviously, we're all aware of what's going on in America. Again, I want to say this. I want to give a shout out to, oftentimes we talk about the many people, some of the police officers who have done some detrimental things, who have, killed unarmed black people. But I definitely want to give a shout out before we continue, but I want to make sure I just give a shout out to the vast majority of police officers that go to work every day looking to protect their city, state, neighborhoods. Definitely praying strength for them. At the end of the day as well, it has not been easy, I'm sure, to be in law enforcement. I can't say that I know what it's like by experience because I've never been a police officer. But I do want to say thank you to all the police officers that on a daily basis go out and truly live that model, protect and serve. And so thank you for all that you're doing. I never want to minimize the great work that many police officers are doing. Outside of the people we know, I mean, we know quite a few law enforcement officers. But at the end of the day, I'm going to say thank you. And then even as we talk about today, loving your life enough to confront your fears, it's not just about race. I mean, it's not just about confronting your fears as it relates to race. It's just in general, loving your life enough to confront your fears. At times, a fear or fears can hold you back. And so today, I really want to kind of dig into that a little bit and really talk about the dangers of being silent or not confronting your fears and how it can basically paralyze you and keep you from success.
Absolutely. I just sit and think about anything that you have to kind of deal with in life. The unknown is the most stressful position for, I think, humankind, period. And a lot of the unknowns is what gets us into trouble because we become very reactive versus responsive. And really being the purpose of confronting is the ability to raise questions and then identifying the truth. Is there truth in what you fear? And being able to truly unveil lies that fuel fear. And so it's really powerful to confront your fears. And the most powerful way that you can confront it is raising questions with the right people, community, those that are a really good support system around you, because it is also putting yourself in a position of vulnerability.
Right. So what would you say, I'll kind of talk about specifics, just so we can make this tangible for our listeners. I'm going to share a few of mine, and if you want me to start, that's fine. But what would you say, what are some couple of fears that you can say that you've learned to confront when you think about your life?
Oh, man. Starting out with just my education, when just life circumstances, I didn't traditionally take the route that I initially thought about graduating from high school. I went to college. My dream was to have the big university experience, but just the season that I was in, I was working over 46 hours a week, running a clinic, and training to be a police officer. And so I was taking my criminal justice courses, was loving it, but then there were certain things that were going on, just ongoing chronic issues with my health where it was just causing inconsistencies. And so when I started out in the education arena, there was a lot of times language used to belittle or make me feel like I was inadequate because I was still working on my degree. And so I had to take a closer look at that and bring truth to it, that a degree does not make me, that God is the one who validates me. And then looking historically at all the people that have changed the world in their spheres of influence without a education, period. And so there were different, and I'm not knocking people if you have your education. I think getting education is really good. But if that's you, your story is not like everybody else. It doesn't make you inadequate. It's your story.
Right. And education doesn't necessarily mean it all looks the same.
Right.
So even those people that doesn't have a traditional degree that did some amazing things to change the world, they were educated in their own right. It just maybe some of them were not in the traditional sense of the traditional college experience.
Right.
But it still was education. It just looked different than, many other people.
Yeah, absolutely. And so one of the things that I was fearful of is confronting some of the people that were making these comments to me. And I had to look within to identify, okay, what is the fear about? Acknowledge what the fear was about, and then go and have a conversation. I had to raise questions to bring truth. It was for me, but it also educated them in their levels of ignorance.
Right. All right. For me, I think when I think about confronting my fears, loving my life enough to confront my fears, one of the things is a big fear I had was just really fear about, raising a family to the point where not wanting to repeat some of the same, for lack of a better term, sins of my forefathers. Meaning a fear I had, obviously I wanted to get married, wanted to have children, but I did not want to just struggle as much as it was for me growing up. And so I really had to confront the fear of, just the fear of basically not being able to take care of my family. And what I mean by that is, it really prompted me to work hard. It prompted me to just never allow difficult situations or circumstances cause me to give up and quit. And obviously, my parents, both my mom and father, worked their fingers to the bone and provided the best they could for us. We always knew we were going to lay our head. They always provided food on the table. But one of the fears that I grew up with was just not being able to experience some of those, plays and clubs and extracurricular activities. And so for me, when I became a father, a huge fear that I had to confront was it is okay to spend money and things that you enjoy, extracurricular activities. I was so ingrained from not what was told to me, but ingrained from my life's experience as a child that there was, most of the time, there was no, extra income available to support extracurricular activities. And so, our extracurricular activities was going outside, playing in the backyard. And so one of the things when I say confronting my fears is just my mindset around educational enrichment activities, extracurricular activities, just going out and having fun, dinner and a movie, going to plays, going to different shows. Obviously, we keep that within a specific budget for us, but having just a liberty and a peace, and it's going to be okay. This is things that we're doing for the benefit of enjoyment.
Right.
Nothing attached to a bill, nothing that we have to do, but we're doing this for a family just for enjoyment. So that may not sound like a big deal to other people. However, that was for sure a fear I had. And I remember just clamming up at times, especially early on when we first got married, babe, when we first started having kids, clamming up at times or just feeling uneasy when we would go do something for fun, like go to California, go to the beach or whatever. Internally, in the midst of vacation, earlier on, our first few years, I was wrestling with, man, we spending this money to do this, and it could be going here to that, or, and just wrestling with that because I was unlearning some things of, my growing up years. So confronting my fears for me, I think a big one was just my fear of, I think it sums up, fear of money or fear of spending money.
Right.
And again, when I got to a place, and I still have to be conscious of it, I'm just going to be real, but when I got to a place where I really realized, like, it's okay, breathe. Life is more than just working and food on the table and clothes on your back. It's meant to enjoy.
Right.
And so for me, confronting that fear was really a form of liberty. Just truly being able to exhale and relax and enjoy life, which truly helped me in every aspect of my life. Mm-hmm. Because when I'm relaxed going to work, or, when you've had time of refreshing, it just rejuvenates you. So
would you say also that, because you mentioned like fear of spending, would you also say like a fear of not having enough when you came back home? For
sure. I think fear of spending, but a fear of not having enough. And so how did I confront it? First of all, and this is a huge piece I want to definitely stress upon the listeners. A huge piece of confronting your fears is, now that you realize it's a problem, it's a fear, how do you confront it? Number one, I would say get educated.
Yes.
So I had to, just spend time really budgeting, looking at making wise financial decisions, looking at, telling my money where it's going to go. Obviously looking at some of the basic stuff, insurance, investments, just really getting educated on, financial discipline.
That's good.
Okay. It wasn't necessarily about stocks, bonds, and portfolios. I wasn't there then. I was just really getting educated on financial discipline. Mm-hmm. So I think how I confronted it is very simple: getting educated, financial discipline, and then just being intentional about, listen, we've saved in order to do this as a family, and there's not going to be any sorrow attached to this getaway.
That's good. That's incredible.
Yeah. So,
man, I love that. There's no sorrow attached to this getaway.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really good. You know, a second one for me, I would say, was after being diagnosed with Crohn's disease, like wondering, you know, am I being a good wife? Am I being a good mom? These were things that I would struggle with on a daily basis because my focus was on what I couldn't do versus on what I could. And over time, I had to, you know, quiet the negative chatter, the internal chatter. And I had to identify what was fueling it. Some of it was me, some of it wasn't. And then being able to learn how to shift my focus to what I was giving to my spouse, what I was giving to my kids, and holding that at just as much value, if not even more. Because there's certain things that I realize that our children are sensitive to, that they have empathy for. And I'm not saying that if you're a mother or a father that's thriving in your health that your kids aren't empathetic, but there's just a different awareness that children have to adapt to when they live with a parent or a family member that deals with a chronic issue. And so whether it's mental health, physical health, a disability, you know, whatever that may look like. And so those were areas that I was not thankful for at first. I used to be angry at it. I'm like, when is this gonna go away? You know, my kids are missing out on this and that. And there's sometimes we can go back and just have conversations. We won't even bring up how hard it was. And they have these beautiful memories and they're like laughing about stuff. And so it was so traumatizing to me personally, but they don't have my memories, you know, because it was my issue that I had to work out, and understanding that in the midst of what was extremely, extremely painful, that good fruit was being produced and fed to our children. And then as far as our marriage goes, we've had and we've learned how to have incredible in-depth conversations that we're continuing to learn how to love each other through different seasons and circumstances. And so it really was perspective. So just shifting perspective and really seeing the fruit that is produced out of suffering. And so it goes back to what I always say, putting truth there. You are a good mom. Yeah. You know, it's just like, yes, this is a quote unquote handicap, but it doesn't make you inadequate.
No, that's for sure. I think just really, even as you're talking, just really making sure that you're able to identify, because it's easy to look at things that you don't like about yourself, or you know, or feel you need to do better. But it takes time to be intentional about these are the things that you're really good at. So I think that's huge, because at the end of the day, we all have strengths and weaknesses, and our strengths and or weaknesses doesn't have to define us.
Right.
And so the beauty of it is just being able to identify them, so we know who to pair or partner ourselves up with, especially in business. Mm-hmm. Obviously, if I'm strong in these particular areas, I may hire someone to work with someone who's, you know, or weak in certain areas. I'm going to hire someone to work with someone who's stronger in these areas, so that we can complement one another. So I definitely like that. That's good. You know, and I think even as we're talking about, you know, confronting our fears, a huge one I would say I used to battle a lot is just a fear of what if my best is not enough.
Man.
And I want to stress even to our listeners, there's a level of liberty when you realize and you get to that place where, listen, you do all that you can do. Obviously, you know, and for us, we do all that we can do and put it in God's hands, and that's it. And if that's you, where you fearful or you worried about your best not being good enough, I want to stress to you, when you give it your all, and you're intentional about giving it your all, and working with people that can come alongside you and work with you, your best is good enough.
Yes.
Because you got to realize your best may not be just what's within your hands. Your best could be the people that you're connected to. Mm-hmm. And so pair it with what's in your hands and what's in their hands to bring about the very change that you need. So I want to stress, listen, at the end of the day, you know, you owe it to yourself. You owe it to yourself to love your life enough to rest in the peace of God, rest in peace knowing that when you give it your all, okay, things may not turn out exactly like you want them to, but when you really focus, give it your all, work hard, partner with people that can help you along the way, and you're intentional to be consistent and learn from your mistakes, learn from your failures. I call it failing forward. When you learn from those things, life has a way of ensuring that your best is good enough, because that consistency and that as you keep learning and you keep making iteration after iteration, adjustment after adjustment, it will produce much fruit. So I want to just encourage you, wherever you are, if that's you, fearful, worried about your best not being good enough, hey, take it day by day, be intentional, learn from your mistakes, learn from your shortcomings, look at it, chalk it up to just an iteration. That's just one iteration that I'm going to be that much better because of this experience. And little by little, even the things that you so-called think you failed at, that's just more experience, more knowledge, more to-dos that you've learned, and more not-to-dos that you've learned to refrain from. So again, when I say your best is enough, that is why. Because that's just one iteration. And as you keep living, as you keep being consistent, all of these experiences, including failure and setbacks, work for your good.
And to add to that, also embracing the fact that your best is not supposed to look like somebody else's best.
That's good. Yeah. No, for sure. That's huge.
You know, that's crucial. It's a game changer, because then it helps you to to truly love you. You know, and then dispelling the lie that if you just do this enough, you'll be this. If I just do that enough, I'll be that. You know, that's just unrealistic. Truly being able to embrace your weaknesses and what makes you different, and then being able to just flow with it. It just makes a lot of things a lot more smoother, because it's just too much stress.
Yeah.
Oh, the stress of oh my gosh, I'm going to be in the same room. And so, because you don't know where your steps are ordered. You just know that, hey, I'm taking it one day at a time, continue to equip myself to be better. But at the same time, understanding hey, you are going to mess up. You are going to do some things that aren't the best. And that's good for us, because it helps us to keep our truth in perspective. I'm not God. I can't do it all. My shoulders aren't that big, and so.
I'm going to stress too, just for us, and even if just words of wisdom, I definitely want to share to our listeners. Look within, loving your life. It's easy to try to label or look elsewhere. I truly encourage us all to begin to truly look within and confront our own fears, because oftentimes if we're not aware of our own fears and if we don't confront them, we live the life or out of the lenses of our fears. And that keeps us stuck in our same groups. That keeps us stuck in, negative thinking. That keeps us stuck in dead-end jobs and positions if we haven't confronted the issue that we can do it, or we are valuable, or we do have something to bring to the table. That in itself can paralyze you and rob you of greatness, rob you of promotions, rob you of destiny and purpose, because you have not addressed that inferiority complex that you have, or not feeling worthy enough. And that keeps you stuck, meaning you don't apply for a promotion. Right. You don't seek to move elsewhere when you feel like you've paid your dues and you're not getting the looks for promotion in one company. Well, if you're dealing with not confronting your fears of being able to get ahead, you may stay stuck in a position with the company that you need to leave. So I'm going to stress, again, do your homework. First off, I would say look within. Confront your own inner fears, because that individually has the power to paralyze you if you don't.
Definitely. So do you have a third thing that you would say you've confronted?
I think I'm good for now, babe. You know what I'm saying? I'm good. Maybe I'll share another little time. But I think the two that I shared are huge ones. I think that were kind of settled. And but it bled over into so many areas. So those are the areas that I would say, so for sure.
Yeah, well, I have one more I want to mention. Even with launching our business. We had to launch a business for the first time in the midst of a lot of stuff going on. that was definitely something that was scary. Having younger children, very active with sports, and like, how in the world am I going to run a business? And learning how to establish a team, learning how to get those around me that are way smarter than me in different areas that I'm not good at, and staying in my lane. So those that was really good, and it continues to thrive, and we're building and learning from one another. And so that was another fear that I had to confront, and it was a powerful process, and it continued to be. I love what I do. I love people, love learning about people, and it's continued to be a blessing in my life.
And I think it was huge too, because even as you say that, it really put an emphasis on our circle, our group, our sphere of influence, meaning there were people we're connected to that walk with us now and are a part of this, supporting us so that we can do the things that we need to do in regards to business. So I want to stress this. Listen, I think the big part of it is just get it started. Take that first step. Don't look for excuses to say why you can't. Get started. Take that first step. And as you're consistent and taking step after step, you learn the things as you go. And there'll be people that you're introduced to that will walk with you when you're passionate about it, when it serves a great purpose. There'll be people that come alongside you and add to you to help you carry out that vision. So I want to stress, do not allow fear, whether it be a business, career, schooling, whether it be, a specific, type of income you're striving for, whatever your goals are. I think it starts with loving your life enough to confront your fears that will try to keep you from your goals. Okay, so whatever it is, confront those things so that you can minimize or reduce or completely annihilate those barriers so that you can move forward.
Absolutely. So we really enjoyed talking to you guys about confronting your fears today and the importance of it. I want to encourage you to just take it one day at a time, develop an inner circle to come around you and to support you. And it may be 1 to 2 people, and that's really all you need starting off. And like I said, taking it one day at a time. And
little by little, bit by bit. Hey, y'all stay blessed. It's been real. We enjoyed talking with you today. Baby, tell them where they can check us out at.
You can find us on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and YouTube. Thank you all again for tuning in. We love you.
Peace.
Shout to the city that raised me. Shout to the people that made me. I'm from the 80s. I don't think mumbling wavy. I grew up black on a Jay-Z. Maybe I'm crazy. I ain't been wondering lately. Feel like it's there for the taking. Feel like I'm good with the changes. Know who I am. And that's the most dangerous thing.
Hey, Love Your Life fam. It's Crystal and Andre Holland.
What's up, everybody?
Hey, looking forward to hearing from you. So to find us, you can check us out on
Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Stitcher. We look forward to hearing from you all.